Dayton ug iyang asawang bulanon
magtiayon sa lalawigan sa Bohol.
Ng isang dayuhan at ang kanyang asawang Pilipina.
Pitong Congresswoman Alexi Totor ang programang pabahay ng mga asawang Martin sa probinsya ng Bohol dahil sa inisyatibong tumulong sa mga Boholano.
Don't forget to share.
Okay, starting my video because I messed up. I'm using this GoPro, which I wasn't used to, and without paying attention, had the bloody thing round the wrong way. Well, I guess I'm an old fart, so I can be forgiven for some of these things. So I got most of the dogs with me, and they've run far ahead. So this is one of those little spots here where we really could do with it being widened, but it goes between trees, and you could widen it in one place and you wouldn't be able to widen it in another. But there's a big palm there and a palm here. What could we do? So we soldier through. Where's those damn dogs? And that noise you can hear in the distance, that's a common noise here in the Philippines, certainly in the province anyway. It's the sound of chainsaws. Chainsaws, they provide the wood for doing most projects. So if you're building anything from a small shed to a house, you need the services of a chainsaw crew. And what they do is they come along, you point them to the tree that you have either bought or own, and they will cut that down. And if you tell them what you need, in other words, if you say we're going to build a house that is 17 by 16, that's usually our requirement, probably 17 by 16, and they will do you a cut list that will allow you to do that without you telling them a damn thing. Now, we're going into what is actually a plantation of trees, where these things they're palm trees, and this is the fruit of the palm. Look, if you look here, so that's what it's all about on palm. And they take that and they mash it down and get the oil out of it, and that's it. Now, at one time this would have been a really lavish palm plantation. There are literally hundreds of palm trees, and they're all carefully laid out. It looks very random here, but that's because it is not being husbanded properly. It's not being cared for, and the reason for that is, I believe that whoever used to own this, it may have been a past mayor. I'm really not quite sure, but the owner with a grand view, I think the owner of this palm plantation was the one who put this road in initially, and gave it to the barangay. I thought I heard a motorcycle. But all of these palms would give quite a harvest, but you can see that there's just a little by the road. Bogey! What's he looking so happy about? So if you can see, they are done in lines, orderly lines, but all of this crap should all be taken off if you look at that, there's one that's died, unfortunately. So now way over the back of there is a series which you should be able to see. Look, rice fields tiered away from us from here, so it's going up that side of the hill, and as I said, they tier them so that each rice field, once the water has passed through, passes on to the next rice field, which is how it works right down to our creek. Now, often people who like to do this kind of thing will set fire. Now this is a stage of the fire where the abundance is now coming through. So the green shoots on that very dark earth. The dark earth is where the fire stripped it down to the earth. Fire passes very, very quickly, so the palm trees survive it. It passes them by. They'll get some damage, but not enough to kill them. But you can see the black there of the fire, and then the nice green shoots. Beth always says, and who am I to disagree? She always says that that's so that the carabao can eat fresh green grass. Although that's sawgrass, and believe me, it gets its name for a very good reason. If you try to pull that out, it actually will not cut you, but it will give you abrasions. And here's what I meant to get to when I was talking about this plantation. This plantation is now, it's kind of foraged by people who come along, and they will take what they can. Like there's a little store that they've picked. They'll take what they can from these poor what can we say, ignored, ill-treated, neglected would be the word, and these neglected trees will still give them some small return, like an extremely mini harvest. Now always there are some changes going on. This is the remains of a tree that has been cut down for wood. Now one thing that has to be said about, see, look, here's part of that tree. I just throw it on the other side of the road without regard. Well, what else would they do? The mindset of the people who form the chainsaw crews is that they are there to convert a tree into wood that can be used to do a job, and once they've done that, they leave. Now, as much as they can, they will not block. See, there's part of the tree, and they won't block the road, but they won't go overboard into tidying up. And whatever's left is whatever's left. It's not their job. And when they've done this, if you have hired them to do this, it will be stacked reasonably orderly so that you can pick it up, but everything else is just abandoned. And very often we have to come in, I have to come in and move this stuff, because if it's very close, then it will scratch the side of the truck, and this has happened on many occasions. So different people earning a different kind of living. And this road is used by people from other barangays. When we get down, we've already passed the point at which you will be able to see it, but right about where I was pointing out, that little stash at the side of the road of of the palm oil fruit. That's about where it branches off to the right and takes people to their barangay way up into the mountains. And here's another little stash. Well, compared to what would be taken from this incredible plantation of hundreds, I mean, look how many there are. There are just hundreds of trees. Imagine that you would need truck after truck after truck to take the fruit from this. Ah! Hello! Now that's somebody that I don't actually know, and they're from another barangay. And wisely sounding their horn when they go around that that part of the road. Now this part of the road now, it's in like an S-bend, and the reason for that was that this was actually the old road, and it went up and it went up and it topped that hill, and boy, that was a son of a gun to get up there when it had been raining. So our trusty Manang Rado came and he ran his plough around here and formed another road. And then when we had the grader come in, we made sure that the grader took the new road that had been made by Rado. And actually I'm looking, there's another tiny little bit, look. All of these little bits, when they're all put together, will fill a truck. Now whether that is whether that's allowed, if that's the right word, whether that is known about even, is another thing. Probably not. And what does it matter? I think as long as with this kind of ownership of land, as long as somebody doesn't come in and build a concrete house and start living in it, there's not really any problem. So we'll be getting close soon to the actual house that I told you about, that we were planning on moving in and cladding in secret. That's why we called it the secret house. It's not a secret. It was just named that because of what our plan was. But our plan didn't work out because, false, timing is everything, and the family managed to get the cladding. They must have raised the money and they got the cladding, and then when we looked again, before we could actually come in with our secret little gift, they had done the job, or started it at least. So what we did instead, there's another little stash, look. Yeah. So what we did instead was we went and we spoke to the family and we said, why don't we come in and help you? So that's what we did. So we came in and we upgraded what they were planning on doing. We put some I think we put some doors in and just did what we could. We did a little bit of block work and some concreting, and we just helped them. Our reward was in the doing and in the smiles. That family have, I think, 2 or 3 children. Which brings me, as I'm just waffling along anyway as I walk, brings me to talk about something that came up in a comment. Someone said, when they were referring to the fact that we move in and we build a house for someone, and that they are not necessarily always involved in the building. Sometimes they have a man or young men in the family that can help, and they do. but they're not our skilled team. So in a way, they would get in the way more than anything. But we have actually found workers as a result of people who volunteered to make their own house. But someone who commented, a sub who, I assume he's a sub, who commented and said, I would never do that. I would let the owners to be build it themselves. And one of the things that we had to decide when we first started to do our mission to help, we went through some changes where we said, I think someone mentioned a house that we were about to help with and said, you know, the husband is a drunkard. Now, I have to explain to Westerners, anybody who drinks is a drunkard. Right? So even in the West, calling somebody a drunk means that they drink to excess. But the other side of that would be, do you drink? Well, yes, but I'm just a social drinker. In other words, I drink modestly and it's under control, which is how it should be. Well, the people said this about a certain house, and just for a fraction of a moment we thought, well, maybe we shouldn't validate that behavior. I mean, if he's going to be a drunkard, he doesn't deserve. Whoa. And then once we found ourselves judging whether someone should receive help or not. Good morning, sir. How are you? Okay, thank you. I take it he was stopping so that our dogs and me, not necessarily in that order, could get by. So we found ourselves saying, well, yes, does he deserve it? And then it became very difficult if the family that we wanted to help had, say, 7 children. Well,